Do you think you know everything? Before you answer this, you should hear that first. The Money Pit. The Oak Island mystery refers to stories of buried treasure and unexplained objects found on or near Oak Island in Nova Scotia. Since the 19th century, a number of attempts have been made to locate treasure and artifacts. Theories about artifacts present on the island range from pirate treasure to Shakespearean manuscripts, to possibly the Holy Grail, or the Ark of the Covenant, with the Grail and the Ark having been buried there by the Knights Templar. Various items have surfaced over the years that were found on the island, some of which have since been carbon dated and found to be hundreds of years old. Although these items can be considered a treasure in their own right, no significant main treasure site has ever been found. The site consists of digs by numerous people and groups of people. The original shaft, in an unknown location today, was dug by early explorers and known as the Money Pit. The curse is said to have originated more than a century ago and stated that 7 men will die in the search for the treasure before it is found. To date, 6 men have died in their efforts to find the treasure. Benjamin Kyle was the alias chosen by an American man who has severe amnesia. On August 31, 2004, he was found, naked and injured, without any possessions or identification, next to a dumpster behind a Burger King restaurant in Richmond Hill, Georgia. Between 2004 and 2015, neither he nor the authorities had determined his real identity or background, despite searches that had included television publicity and various other methods. In late 2015, genetic detective work, which had gone on for years, led to the discovery of his prior identity, as William Burgess Powell, born August 29, 1948, although a gap of more than 20 years in his life history still remains without any documented records. With the rediscovery of his Social Security number, he has again become eligible for ordinary employment and has received public assistance. The Dancing Plague of 1518. The outbreak began in July 1518 when a woman began to dance fervently in a street in Strasbourg. Some sources claim that, for a period, the plague killed around 15 people per day. However, the sources of the city of Strasbourg at the time of the events did not mention the number of deaths, or even if there were fatalities. Historical documents, including physician notes, cathedral sermons, local and regional chronicles, and even notes issued by the Strasbourg City Council are clear that the victims danced. It is not known why. Controversy. Historical sources agree that there was an outbreak of dancing after a single woman started dancing, a group of mostly young women joined in, and the dancing did not seem to die down. It lasted for such a long time that it attracted the attention of the Strasbourg magistrate and bishop, and some number of doctors ultimately intervened, putting the afflicted in a hospital. Where the controversy arises is the matter of whether people ultimately danced to their deaths. The main source for this claim comes from John Waller, who has written several journal articles on the subject and the book A Time to Dance, A Time to Die, The Extraordinary Story of the Dancing Plague of 1518. There is uncertainty around the identity of the initial dancer. The number of dancers involved, somewhere between 50 and 400. Wow signal. The WOW signal was a strong narrowband radio signal received on August 15, 1977, by Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope in the United States. The signal appeared to come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius and bore the expected hallmarks of extraterrestrial origin. Astronomer Jerry Emmon discovered the anomaly a few days later while reviewing the recorded data. He was so impressed by the result that he circled the reading on the computer printout, 6EQUJ5, and wrote the comment "Wow" on its side, leading to the event's widely used name. The entire signal sequence lasted for the full 72-second window during which Big Ear was able to observe it, but has not been detected since, despite several subsequent attempts by Emmon and others. Many hypotheses have been advanced on the origin of the emission, including natural and human-made sources, but none of them adequately explain the signal. Although the WOW signal had no detectable modulation, a technique used to transmit information over radio waves, it remains the strongest candidate for an alien radio transmission ever detected. The mystery of the unexplained pteranodon photo. Pteranodon is a genus of pterosaurs that included some of the largest known flying reptiles. They held a wingspan of over 6 meters, and existed in North America, specifically present-day Kansas, Alabama, Nebraska, Wyoming, and South Dakota. For over 200 years, people in these areas of the United States have reported enormous birds. The bird sightings are so prevalent that the creatures have been given the name thunderbirds, which is taken from Native American mythology. In many cases, thunderbird reports are accompanied by large footprints. Probably the most controversial report surfaced on July 25, 1977, when a group of 3 children from Lawndale, Illinois, claimed that 2 giant birds chased them and then grabbed a 10-year-old boy named Marlon Lowe. One of the birds reportedly clamped down on Lowe's shoulder with its claws, lifted him about 2 feet off the ground, carried him some distance, and then released him. Thunderbird sightings continue to intrigue cryptozoologists to this day. The creatures are said to have lizard-like features, which is similar to the extinct pterosaurs. In the 1950s, an unusual photograph was published in a Believe It or Not type book. The picture shows a collection of American Civil War soldiers standing over an enormous bird carcass. The carcass holds a strong resemblance to a pteranodon. According to the story, the bird was shot down by soldiers during the American Civil War in 1864 near the city of Vicksburg. The story says that the publication referred to the creature as some kind of unknown bird or monster. In an interesting twist, there is a second photograph on the internet that displays the exact same scene but is known to be faked. The picture is not as convincing but was made to look similar to the original for a television show named Freaky Links, which aired on the Fox network. The fake picture shows soldiers standing over a different carcass. The image is deceiving, and the fact that there are 2 photographs that show the same thing has discredited the original. Whatever the case, the picture remains an interesting story. Today, thunderbirds are one of the most popular cryptids in North America. Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is an illustrated codex handwritten in an unknown writing system. The vellum on which it is written has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, 1404–1438, and it may have been composed in Italy during the Italian Renaissance. The manuscript is named after Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish Samogitian book dealer who purchased it in 1912. Some of the pages are missing, with around 240 remaining. The text is written from left to right, and most of the pages have illustrations or diagrams. Some pages are foldable sheets. The Voynich manuscript has been studied by many professional and amateur cryptographers, including American and British code breakers from both World War I and World War II. The manuscript has never been demonstrably deciphered, and the mystery of its meaning and origin has excited the popular imagination, making it the subject of novels and speculation. None of the many hypotheses proposed over the last 100 years has been independently verified. In 1969, the Voynich manuscript was donated by Hans Kraus to Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. Yamal Hole. In 2014, massive holes began appearing in parts of Siberia. One giant crater in the Yamal Peninsula spanned more than 100 feet wide, gaining international attention and prompting theories about how it could have formed. In the following year, dozens more of these mystery holes were spotted nearby. Since then, scientists have been able to determine that the mystery hole wasn't an impact from a meteorite. The most likely explanations so far? These holes could have been formed by underground methane explosions or by the freezing and melting of the landscape, creating geological formations known as pingos. One thing is for certain, warmer temperatures in the Arctic have played a part. If the holes were caused by methane explosions, it could be the same phenomenon that's been offered as an explanation behind the Bermuda Triangle, meaning that researchers could be dealing with methane explosions that, when underwater, are powerful enough to sink entire ships. Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient hand-powered Greek analog computer, which has also been described as the first example of such a device used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for calendar and astrological purposes decades in advance. It could also be used to track the 4-year cycle of athletic games, which was similar to an Olympiad, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. This artifact was retrieved from the sea in 1901 and identified on May 17, 1902 as containing a gear by archaeologist Valerios States, among wreckage retrieved from a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island Antikythera. The instrument is believed to have been designed and constructed by Greek scientists and has been variously dated to about 87 BC, or between 150 and 100 BC, or to 205 BC, or to within a generation before the shipwreck, which has been dated to approximately 70-60 BC. It is a complex clockwork mechanism composed of at least 30 meshing bronze gears. A team led by Mike Edmonds and Tony Freeth at Cardiff University used modern computer X-ray tomography and high-resolution surface scanning to image inside fragments of the crust-encased mechanism and read the faintest inscriptions that once covered the outer casing of the machine. Detailed imaging of the mechanism suggests that it had 37 gear wheels, enabling it to follow the movements of the Moon and the Sun through the zodiac, to predict eclipses and even to model the irregular orbit of the Moon, where the Moon's velocity is higher in its perigee than in its apogee. The knowledge of this technology was lost at some point in antiquity. Similar technological works later appeared in the medieval Byzantine and Islamic worlds, but works with similar complexity did not appear again until the development of mechanical astronomical clocks in Europe in the 14th century. Jean Hilliard. On December 20, 1980, Hilliard was involved in a car accident that resulted in car failure in cold weather. She walked to a friend's house 2 miles away and collapsed 15 feet away from the door. Temperatures dropped to under 22 degrees Fahrenheit and she was found frozen solid, according to witnesses, at 7 a.m. the following morning after 6 hours in the cold, though doctors say her stiffness was likely due to powerful muscle contractions rather than actual freezing. She was transported to Foston Hospital, where doctors said her body temperature was too low to register on a thermometer. Her face was ashen and her eyes were solid with no response to light. Her pulse was slowed to approximately 12 beats per minute. On arriving at the hospital, Hilliard was wrapped in an electric blanket. 2 hours later, she went into violent convulsions and regained consciousness. Her only injuries were frostbite, which were treated with skin grafting. Now we would like to know your answer. Leave it in a comment. Thanks for watching.